Good evening and welcome to Corporate News. I'm Anna Kale and I'm here with
Ma1nfram3, also known as Ma1nfram3. Cheryl. That's my other name. The real one, I guess.
the real one. Well, I think that the names that we choose for ourselves are often more important than the names chosen for us.
Very apt.
Hence Ma1nfram is a I think that's very Shadowrun to begin with. That whole Anyway, I don't have notifications in here, so I apologize to whoever that was, but thank you for following. Or resubbing. That was a resub. Brickosaurus.
Woo!
That I can see. Brickosaurus, thank you for the resubscription. Hello, Genova, you're such a good boy. Hello and welcome.
Hello, Genova. Hello, Roof. I don't know how to pronounce that. Is
Ruvidnir.
Ruvidnir. Nice. It's good. It's many syllables. Yeah.
You
Ruvidnir.
Yeah. So we're here to recap the episode with Ma1nfram from last week, which you just showed up. You rushed in the door and were like, "Hi, want to recap an episode?" And she's like, "Sure." Thank you.
It's no problem. It's what I do.
I don't get to watch the episodes because I'm busy running the corporate wars. It is sad. But what happened? What diabolical things occurred on last week's episode of Corporate Sins?
Well, when the episode started, we were outside Shiwase, corporate housing, and I think there was a typo in the video because it said we were at Mitsuhama, but they hired us. That's a bit of a miss. So don't be confused by the video notes. We were trying to get a janitor from Shiwase.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's how I remember it. Maybe international travel has done something to me. But anyway, Mordecai was levitating Elsie and Cromwell up to the 11th floor where our mark was. And I was doing my matrixy things. And Fang was like this, ready to throw a trash can at a fence.
I like that. The matrixy thing.
Matrixy things that you do,
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like I grew up with a keyboard or anything. It's that's universal sign. It's been that way for hundreds of years.
Yeah,
it's universal sign for digital things is that.
Yeah, it comes from the golden retriever.
Yes, it does. Those interesting things. So, we're trying to be sneaky, which, as you know, is MFAC's specialty. It's why we're typically hired, is for our sneaking abilities. But things actually, I had a little bit of a run-in with the fence, and I might have gotten marked a couple times by the host. But the good news is, my Warhammer toy, we were all given prototype toys by Mitsuhama to test out on this field run. And I have to say, I am a very big fan of this Warhammer program they gave me for my cyber deck. It's pretty amazing. So I fixed the problems. I took out a couple of these proximity fence things and made it safe for our friends up on the other floor to quietly enter the apartment. Meanwhile, Fang is trying to create a distraction, and she did successfully do so. She threw that trash can with aplomb. The problem was when she tried to be constructively destructive and tried to actually sort of like target the security guards, things started not going particularly well for her.
Constructively destructive.
Yeah, constructively. She's very good at randomly destructive.
I think that might describe MFAC in general. Constructively destructive. Like, I think
that's a compliment. I'm not sure if it's true.
I think you could bill yourselves that way. You could say, if you need a shadow running team that is constructively destructive, MFAC is your team.
Oh yeah, I'll talk to the guys. We'll see. We don't have a marketing division yet, but we'll keep it under consideration. So poor Fang was trying to be helpful, blurting out a bunch of like kawaii phrases in Japanese, English sort of touristy stuff, mostly just scaring passers-by. And then one of those bar gas things, I haven't run into them very much. I understand they're very scary. Scared the living crap out of her, the poor thing. And she just started running in the opposite direction. So there's our Orc Street Samurai just running away. Weeping. We didn't know she was weeping at the time. We're not heartless. We're just, she turned her comm off. That's the thing that happened that she did. But the good news was Elsie and Cromwell.
Not heartless, just oblivious.
Man, you are just sound bites today. Not heartless, just oblivious. And constructively destructive. Marketing is on the take right now.
Right.
It's good. So we've got Elsie and Cromwell infiltrate the apartment on the 11th floor. And our Mark is just, and I don't remember his name very much. I try not to get too attached. You know how this Shadowrun thing goes. If you remember people's names, then it's like their family. and we've already got enough adopted family. So he's got something called CFD, which is, if I understand correctly, is cognitive fragmentation disorder or something along those lines. Basically, tiny little computers are rewriting his brain. And I believe Cromwell explained how deeply that affects him and Elsie in the previous corporate news. So I won't drag you through that. You can go watch that if you'd like to know why Cromwell and Elsie were so upset about things with CFD.
Hitting a little close to home for anyone out of Boston.
Closer than probably anyone at Mitsuhama intended. I don't know. Maybe they have details, but it happens. So, now, Cromwell's toy, as I understand it, was some sort of narcojet grenades, and he decided to set them off both at once. Meanwhile, I'm just warhammering everything at this point. I had bricked the comlinks, I had bricked several guns. I was trying to make it rain hammers. I failed, but I was enjoying my test quite a lot. Over there, he set both grenades on the Mark's chest and set them off. One of them went very well and drugged our targets, and the other one exploded and set off the smoke detectors. That was unfortunate. So they wrapped him up in his antique quilts, and literally leapt off of the balcony and trusted that Mordecai would catch them with his magic. And I think they fell like 30 feet before he did, but they did not die. But they literally, I want to make it clear that it was not just like a careful, Mordecai, please come here, we will and cast a spell and save us. They just ran out and leapt.
And just hoped.
Just hoped. Because we're all about hope at MFAC. You know, it's very human trait, and we've got one human, so that makes sense.
Really need to have a lot of hope if you don't have a lot of plans.
Because otherwise, why would you show up for work in the morning?
Right.
So that's so they came out, and the good news was the unintentional smoke detector was actually a fairly effective, constructive, destructive kind of distraction.
Excellent.
And so everybody looked over there, and we went over there. And we've got a bundle of dude in the quilts, but Elsie and I, we have a good mother-daughter kind of drunk thing going on. We distracted everybody. We get back to the capsule hotel, and Cornbread, the cat that Mordecai adopted, and surprised all of us with his heart that grew 3 sizes that day, had torn up the capsule, and they had sent him back to the shelter. So now, also Fang is still missing. So now Fang is missing. Mordecai is pouting on the floor of a capsule hotel in Japan. We have an unconscious janitor in a quilt. And, yeah, that's...
Through all of this, I have to ask, why Cornbread? Why was the cat's name Cornbread?
So many questions. He's a tabby, and, it was like golden and reddish from what I understand, and because I didn't get to spend much time with Cornbread, because I only learned through hearsay, because I was taking the tour with Elsie while she was pretending to vomit very convincingly. Yeah, very convincingly. But from what I understand, the tabby nature of him reminded Mordecai of
Cornbread.
Home dwarven cooking. I don't know, but
Fair enough.
But it is, and maybe it said Cornbread on his name tag. Is that what cats have? A name tag?
Yeah, the tag on their collars.
Name.
Yeah.
So it's a
Sure.
good. Why cornbread? I believe many people ask that question. Why cornbread? I mean, it's delicious, but the cat, we're still figuring that out. But Mordecai was very upset. Thankfully, Cromwell was level-headed enough to go and look for our dear friend Fang, and she was not in a good place emotionally. She was just feeling like she had let us down, and she was very sad. So we've got a sad dwarf and a sad orc. After what was actually a fairly successful extraction, which is the ironic thing for me. All things considered, there was no high-threat response initiated from this particular part of the extraction. So, I thought things had gone well, but then they just descended. We had to get drama up in there. MFAC, we're just... So, long story short, we failed to convince Mordecai that the cat was around. He sent his spirit to find him. Cats don't like being held, so the spirit couldn't carry him back. But I convinced everybody to go to the train. Taking a bullet train from one city to another. And I get them confused. I think we were going from Osaka to Kyoto, but we might have been going from Kyoto to Osaka. They're the two cities, and we were taking a train between them. And we should have known better than to think things were done. Because we got on the train and we were on there for a couple minutes. Our friend was in a box, like a shipping box.
And you don't mean cornbread. You mean your janitor friend.
Cornbread's still in the shelter. Although Cromwell has sworn to help retrieve poor Cornbread. I don't know if we've heard the last of Cornbread, unless his female FIV accelerates his tragic illness. Hopefully he will hold on so that he can get a reunion.
Long enough to be rescued. Rescued by Mordecai and Cromwell.
He's maybe better off in the shelter. We're constructively destructive. And so I'm going to keep saying that.
Yeah.
So we're on the train, and the train lurches dangerously.
It's your new call tag.
Constructively destructive.
Constructively destructive.
So we're on the train. It lurches. We're thrown damagingly into various and sundry furniture and wall pieces. There's 4 folks on the train car with us. Everybody directs fire over there. I hop onto the Matrix. And there's a giant dragon AI just kind of laughing at me there, and he starts attacking me, and so I don't really bother to, we didn't sit down and have a nice talk beforehand, like where you from, who are your parents, what you doing. He attacked me, so I attacked him back and focused on eliminating the threat. Turns out he's extremely powerful in a very alarming sort of way. Nearly bricked my comm deck. That is not a good thing. Those are very expensive. I think I've mentioned. So the only thing left to do was to talk to him. And so we just kind of... this is a giant dragon kind of moving his wings around. And we're in AR, so it's a holographic kind of dragon while I'm still on a train that's lurching back and forth. And it turns out the dragon was the fragmented personality that was written onto the janitor.
Interesting. So the nanites were taking the form holographically of a dragon.
Some people think that was very obvious. It was not obvious to me because I was trying to defend my teammates.
Clearly.
And not...
taken by surprise.
You can't just play connect the dots all the time. Sometimes you just got to use the Warhammer when you got to use it. Dragon, very upset about being attached to a human, and thought maybe crashing the train would be a good way not to be attached to a human anymore. So we had to kind of convince him not to kill us with the train. And Elsie stepped in a little bit. She's a little better with the words than I am sometimes.
That's part of why you keep her around.
Those chicks she goes to school with, they are cruel. Some of the things she tells me are very disturbing. I can't believe that people are subjected to this in schools, but I digress. It's a digression. It's neither here nor there. So we convinced the dragon that we could get him into space. And once we had convinced him of this, we had to figure out how to get him into space. And
because, of course, this is a space dragon.
It's a space dragon, naturally.
Not just a dragon, but it believes it is a space dragon. Very specifically. Very specifically.
Very specifically a space dragon. Now, I don't know what they're doing over in Shiawase that, like, a space dragon happened to walk by and attach himself to a janitor. You may want to work on your corporate security protocols, but it's fine. Everything is fine. Nothing is ruined yet. So we had heard through a couple of rumors, I connected to some things. There are cases of technomancers being able to remove one of those fragmented personalities from somebody who's suffering from said nanites.
Sure.
Now, it's...
Whenever you're ready.
Now, when you do that, the personality's has to want to leave, but this dragon has made his desire to leave very clear.
That seems apparent. Sure.
Making a question, White Rabbit asks, making a deal with the dragon was a good move. Well, we're not done yet. So if I'm not dead next week, then it was an excellent deal because there was no death. Right now, it is just, it remains to be seen. So we called the only technomancer we know, which is Miss J, our old friend Miss J. and from the Draco Foundation, and turns out she's rather interested in the research possibilities that are presented by a space dragon that wants to leave.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they pulling some strings to get us some contacts at a destination, and we're gonna try to extract a space dragon from a janitor. And then once we've done that, and the janitor's brain stops trying to kill us, we can deliver him, get Nguyen,
Yeah.
maybe leave Japan, and maybe stop offending Japan. I just need to apologize on behalf of MFAC for some of the things that are said in the heat of the moment. I mean, Fang doesn't mean, that she hates all of Japan. She mostly just hates the cats and the security guards and the bar guests. But those are not things that Japan has copyrighted necessarily.
Sure,
unless
not
they have.
distinctly
Right?
Japanese.
Could have happened
Absolutely.
in Ohio.
Sure.
It didn't.
True.
Ohio doesn't even
yeah.
exist anymore. It's just an example, I think, that
Sure.
I'm using. But,
Yeah.
because time and space are complicated.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Good luck extracting your space dragon from your janitor and
If I had a nickel
getting-
for every time someone said that. or
I
a
know.
Nguyen. If I had 5 Nguyen for every time someone said good luck extracting a space dragon,
from your janitor.
From your janitor.
From your janitor.
I would not
Absolutely.
be very rich.
Well, thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
So that's your recap. Now we will dive right into corporate news. I've got a whole bunch of stuff to tell you all, but first we will start with the corporate action point totals for the week, which I believe are correct. If not, then I will reach out to each corporation and let you know. We did have a little bit of an issue, but I believe it's been covered in the time that I've been in here. So, coming up from behind is Neonet. Neonet coming in the lead for 25 action points this week, with Shiawase trailing them at just 15, a far cry from where they were at the last few weeks. Horizon and Seder Krupp both have 11, while Evo has 8. Ares, Aztechnology, and Wuxing come in with 7 apiece. Mitsuhama and Renraku 6 and 5 respectively. So there seems to be a bit of an interesting thing going on with the corporate investments and how those were tracked this week, but we'll get to that in the news in a moment, which is over here. Let me grab that. Last week was a great one for research, with over half of the megacorps having successful to even wildly successful developments in their respective development branches. An unnamed source alleged today, speaking of Neonet, on a pirate stream that the board of Neonet recently met with a person only described as a successful financier with opaque financing strategies. According to the anonymous source, at play was the cession of relatively non-performing Neonet assets in exchange for a share of the local mob's extortion revenues. Experts in corporate dealings doubted the veracity of this accusation. Any short-term gain for Neonet would immediately be erased, as the scheme would eventually be uncovered, and the hit to their reputation would be huge. They didn't exclude the possibility that Neonet was strong-armed into such a deal, though. Neonet's board declined to comment on the allegations. Seder Krupp has been working on an all-new species of hops for brewing called Florentum Draco, or Flowering Dragon hops. This new crop will have greater yield at harvest, survive harsher climates, and boasts over 9,000 IBU per 10 kilograms used in the brewing of beer. Keeping in mind the Reinheitsgebot, pardon my German, it's a little rusty, German beer purity order, this new crop promises to deliver amazing flavor and is priced for both bulk wholesale distribution to major breweries or available for home brewers in smaller, more manageable quantities. You can taste this new harvest in Seder Krupp's newest beer for distribution, Old Chummer Ale. There's more news from the General Dynamics ongoing story. Their new chief of operations overhauled the entire company. One Alex Neat was quoted as saying, "We're moving in a new direction here under my leadership. We hope to continue to improve as the months go by." This was followed by a showing of new equipment in development, including body armor, firearms, and various sundries. This news was met favorably. Evo sent a press release stating simply, "Out of respect for the victims, Evo will not comment on the heinous attacks which have been perpetrated last week. At this point, instead, we will take stock and focus on rebuilding what was lost." As Technology is announcing a new tabletop game, harkening back to the old days before the Matrix and VR. Instead, we ask you to use your imaginations in a game where you're taken back to a simpler time, a time before magic was realized and nanotechnology could rewrite your brain. Back when your only worries were whether Stacy from accounting was just being nice or if she had another agenda, or whether Dan from down the hall was going to find some way to steal your ideas and cheat you out of that raise again. We hope metahumans the world over will enjoy climbing the corporate ladder from intern all the way up to chief executive by kissing up and stabbing backs in this throwback to our not-so-distant past. Will you achieve your corporate bliss? Mitsuhama's Lockheed Martin would like to announce the successful completion of all high-atmosphere test flights of the Alexander-class CCSS Neat. Next week will be the first low-orbit test flight, ferrying a small cargo of supplies to our Communications Star space station. Stay tuned for more news on that. Last week, a video was released alleging to be from Shiwase's CEO, begrudging recent hostilities sustained. While the video was airing, a number of rival megacorporations simultaneously sustained major assaults. Losses among staff and equipment were not small for the corporations attacked, including Evo's biotech and medicine branches, Wuxing's shipping, and Mitsuhama's law enforcement. When approached, Shiwase officials had no comment on the matter and instead sent us this PR release. Shiwase is proud to announce the latest version of their ocular and oral enhancement technologies. A major upgrade to the last generation, these implants have been tested against both human and metahuman populations and proven safe. Quick and easy updates are also available for our competitors' new generation of implants for half the price of new implants. That's it for the news on the corporate war as it stands now. However, I do want to say we are working on rolling out a new portion of the corporate war system and how action points are calculated, and we are hoping to have that for you next week. Next week there will be an additional, hopefully, tech allowing, next week, perhaps the week after, but very soon we will be having another portion of AP. An additional group of action points will be available based on each corporation's total market value. So if one corporation has 150, while another total market value, and another has only 100, their action points will be calculated. These new action points added to the total will be calculated as an additional based on each corporation's percentage. So this is something that we are hoping to give to you all to help balance things further. We know that there have been a few complaints about imbalances, and this is one of the ways that we hope to appease that complaint and address it. Hopefully that makes sense. If there are any questions, I am available for the next few minutes before Corporate Sin starts to address those. So feel free to toss those into the chat. Where is that page again with the AP? That is straylogic.com/HRPG. As FFFixmaster has put into the chat. So straylogic.com/HRPG. So that is the bulk of the news. That is the EP as it stands. We are constantly evolving this corporate wars game around. And I suppose I can close out by describing what exactly the corporate wars game is. It is the metagame that we have built up around Shadowrun Corporate Sins, our Shadowrun RPG show here on Twitch. The corporate metagame is designed to give back to the people that give to us through gratuities and through their subscriptions, and eventually, hopefully, through just your viewership as well. Give you something more with which to interact with the Shadowrun verse and Shadowrun Corporate Sins. But I've been given the sign that MFEC is ready to go on, so without further ado, I will say thank you, White Wabbit, for the congratulations, and I give you Shadowrun Corporate Sins. See you at the end.